Okay, so we finished giving Mr. Hulk Hogan here his acupuncture. He's all pierced up and ready to go. We've given him a once over, and hey, look at that right there. Right there, missed one. Double check it. Pop that bad boy. Do not leave a single one of these things unpopped. Now I want to look at it again, because if we missed one, okay. I think we're good to go. Let's go. So we have him on the chamois. We already loosened him up a little bit. Ooh, let's lay him down. He's good to go. He's pierced up. Make sure everything's flat. Make sure everything's cool. Looks like he's ready. A little piece of tape here wants to do whatever. Hey, Dan's open. Do. All right. No more nonsense. We got him ready to go. He looks solid. Oh, let's see. I see one little thing over here. No, that looks all right. Sometimes I'll move them around a little bit, make sure they're doing what I want them to do. A little bit of a curve in some of it. It's not that bad. We're gonna leave it the way it is. When you're doing the big guys, get a fresh piece of parchment paper. He's too tall for that, so let's take it out. Okay, we got it. And tear that off. I don't think the side makes a difference, but I usually put the curly side down. And there we go. You got that on there. The tape will hold on to it a little bit if you want to get the tape a little bit. And we're good to go now. The bigger pieces do take longer to iron than the short pieces. You see like the literature you read on there and it's telling you do it like 20, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever like that. Bigger pieces, nonsense. Your iron is going to lose heat quick. So we just got a Continental electric iron here. Got this straight up from Dollar General. Cost me $12. Right now we have it set right in between cotton and wool. It's warm, it's good to go. Depends on where you want to start. I'll start right here because it's close. So we're just gonna get that iron straight on his head. Leave it there for a little while. Let that heat dissipate. Let the heat sink into the beads. People move around a little bit, that's fine. You'll start to see a little bit of the meltiness go right away. As you go, the paper will stick to it. That's how you know it's good. I generally, while the iron's still hot, get in an early fuse. Now this is something you definitely do not want to do when you're on a pegboard. When you're on a pegboard, don't move around all over the place because it'll start to curl. That's one good thing about having a masking tape method is this will curtail a fair amount of that curling that happens when the beads start to heat up and cool down. The tape will hold them in place. Not saying that the tape doesn't curl, but it does tend to control it a little bit better. Okay. We've got a pretty preliminary seal here. Now, I prefer a pretty flat look to it, and that takes some finesse. It is a tricky thing to do. We'll start off on his head here. Thinking about these irons, especially the cheaper irons, is that heat dissipation just sucks. I hate it. I hate when it goes away. When you're ironing, you're doing your thing, and it just cools down. One of these days, I'm going to find an iron that just stays on, some industrial iron that's intended for heavy duty work. Anyways, Hulk's coming along here. You can start to see the beads, particularly to this area, really starting to get melty. Once it gets to this point, you can start applying pressure. Start to put a little bit of shoulder into it. And it's doing its thing. Now at this point, it is a bad idea to pull that paper up off of it. Keep that paper on here. Once it starts to cool, the paper will start to come up on its own. But if you pull the paper up while these are melting, you're going to get a little bit of smudging. The corners of the beads are going to come up a little bit, and you'll get this smear effect going on. Alright, some of these here are starting to do their thing. Let's get his head going first. Yeah, iron just kicked on there, so we'll get a little bit of extra heat out of it, and then turn itself off. Oh, it should just stay on. One of the things I like about doing this the most is these characters, they're video game characters. They're virtual. They're not real. You never see a physical representation of them. But when you do this, they're pulling them out of the video game world and putting them into the real world. Not only that, but you're getting inside of the head of the original artist. You're getting to see what he saw. Because at one point, or she saw, at one point, they had to design these characters. And they had limits. You can only have so many colors. You can only have so many pixels. And you had to animate them. So you had to make sure that their body proportions and things like that were all good to animate. Now this is one of my favorite poses in the game. If you remember wrestling in the 80s, early 90s, Hulk Hogan, his deal was always getting the crap knocked out of him. He would just get a beat down to where you thought there is no way that dude is getting up. Then something would happen, and he'd get angry. And whoever it was, punch him straight up in the face. And he'd stand up, and he'd shake his head, say, "No." The crowd would go wild. They're going nuts. Hulk's standing up, and he's getting hit harder than he's been hit the whole match, just getting slapped straight up in the face. He's standing up and ready to go. And eventually, after he brings the match back, he'll stand up and he'll go to the crowd. He'll get their attention. He'll go to one side and he'll swing his hand in the air and put his hand up to his ear so that he can scream and he can hear him. He'll go to all four corners of that ring, get everybody's attention, then just straight up body slam a dude. So, here we are. His head is looking pretty good. We got most of those holes sealed up. The lines on here are pretty clean. Of course, the outside edges do tend to blur a little bit. Now, when you get in here and you're sealing up the holes, try not to dig too much, but get the tip of that iron in there. Just push it down a little bit. Not so much that you're damaging it, but just enough to where you're sealing those holes up. Alright, so there we go. Now we're just going to move down his body, finish up the rest, doing the same kind of thing. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. These take a lot longer when you got the big ones. So we're going to fast forward to the end here. And we'll see you when we're almost done.